The LDS Church's investment arm, Ensign Peak, ended the year with total investments of about $182 billion, based on our estimates. Ensign Peak manages a diversified portfolio. As a reminder, only the directly held U.S. stock market holdings are disclosed on quarterly SEC Forms 13F. Other investments have limited or no public disclosure. The Church's portfolio is similar to that of DMBA, another subsidiary which manages retirement funds for all Church employees. DMBA discloses all of its investments on an annual basis in Federal Department of Labor Forms 5500. While its portfolio is diversified similarly, DMBA's pension investments tend to have less exposure to the stock market and greater exposure to fixed income securities, likely due to the need for consistent and predictable cash payments to retirees. Ensign Peak reported $50.5 billion of directly held U.S. stock market holdings at the end of 2023. The portfolio gained 22.6% in 2023, notably lagging the S&P 500 index return of 26.3%. Ensign Peak was a net seller of stocks, trimming about $3.1 billion of U.S. stocks through the year. It sold $1.3 billion of U.S. stocks in Q4 alone. Ensign Peak's U.S. stock portfolio closely tracks the S&P 500. Its strategy attempts to beat the market by starting with market index weights for all stocks, and then owning more of the index stocks that the firm expects to beat the market, and owning less of the rest. Thus, its positive or negative view on individual stocks can only be discerned by looking at relative weightings. Over the past 4 years, the fund's performance has almost exactly mirrored the S&P 500 index. Ensign Peak's U.S. stock portfolio lagged the market by a wide margin in 2023, bringing its cumulative return relative to the S&P 500 to -4% over 4 years. If Ensign Peak had bought the market index instead, it would have made $1.7 billion more over this time period. The result would not have been materially different with or without owning the sin stocks like alcohol and tobacco names it avoids. Although Ensign Peak owns billions of dollars of Apple, Microsoft and Amazon, its portfolio was significantly underweight these and other Magnificent Seven tech stocks throughout the year, relative to market index weightings for those names. While remaining underweight prominent technology stocks, Ensign Peak was overweight a number of consumer, industrial and financial stocks. Inconsistent portfolio standards remain evident, as DMBA owns stocks which Ensign Peak has avoided. While gambling, alcohol, tobacco and coffee stocks are avoided, there appears to be an ongoing lack of clarity about policy in church-sponsored investment portfolios. DMBA owns Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Monster Beverage and Netflix, all of which are market index names which have been noticeably absent from Ensign Peak's portfolio. Ensign Peak's U.S. stock portfolio is more than 99% correlated with the S&P 500 index, a result of its index-based, relative weighting strategy. Negative 4.1% alpha means stock picking detracted meaningfully from performance in 2023. The fund would have delivered 4.1% higher returns if Ensign Peak had simply bought the index. Its overweight and underweight stock selection created negative value. At times, Ensign Peak may be a net buyer or net seller of stocks. Over the past 4 years combined, the fund has been a net seller overall, trimming direct U.S. stock holdings by a cumulative $4.3 billion. This trend likely indicates Ensign Peak has tended to allocate funds to other types of assets, anticipating better medium-term returns outside the U.S. stock market. Since only directly held holdings in U.S. stocks are disclosed on Ensign Peak's 13F filings, it can be confusing to see these filings and wonder what the fund's total investment balances are. Based on documented ranges for target portfolio mix across all asset categories, U.S. stock holdings of $50.5 billion at the end of 2023 implies the LDS Church has total investments of $166 to $193 billion. the Widows Mite Report. All of the information contained in this report was obtained through analysis of publicly available sources.